Yeah, B, let's go. I've got a song for today.
What's your song?
Chatter, chatter in my head. Intrusive thoughts before I go to bed at night. Oh. B, what are we going to talk about today?
Chatter and getting you singing lessons.
Yes.
But it's way better than me. It's way better than my voice, so I can't knock you too hard.
Hey man, listen.
Man, do I sense a karaoke night?
We've been talking about this for a lot of intros, man. I think it's about time.
Yeah.
So people, welcome to this More Than Black or White Health podcast. Thank you for joining us. If it's your first time here, welcome. If you've been here before, welcome back. We're your hosts. I'm Paul, author, co-host, co-author with my guy Brian, and giver of the truth and authenticity, helping people find their way. B, who you, bro? Who you, bro?
Oh, Brian, man, traveling expert. I like to say one day, you know, I do a lot of traveling, so I would consider myself pretty of an expert in the last couple of years.
I would say so.
Investor, entrepreneur, and just a thirst for knowledge and learning as much as I possibly can, especially about the health and wellness field. I love it.
Yes,
and this kind of brings us into our topic today, right? You know, we're piggybacking off a little off Andrew Huberman.
Listen, Dave, we piggyback off of Andrew, we're in a good space.
I like him, man. He's a good dude.
Yeah, he's a good dude, man. And you know what's interesting? Bless up to you, Andrew, because you stay in this game. You're a researcher. I really appreciate what you put out and how you put it out, because I noticed, like, in these podcasts, because this is I think this is the second or third one that you recommended.
Yeah,
I really appreciate his authenticity and just like his relations with the guests. And this one that you shared with me about how to control your inner voice and increase your resilience. He interviewed this guy, Dr. Ethancross. So dude, because if this is the first time you've been here, Brian loves to research. I love to research. We love to look into different things and see how it applies to health and well-being. So B, when you brought this to me, right, with this guy, Dr. Ethan Cross, doctor, professor of psychology at University of Michigan, and the director of Emotion and Self-Control Laboratory, and he's got a book out called Chatter. What was, like, especially in relation to what we talk about, bro?
Yeah.
What attracted you to this for us to talk about this today, man?
I'd like to see everyone win. I want to see everybody live to their full potential. And I've talked about this in the past. Like, I think there's two reasons why they don't succeed or they're not successful. And one is discipline, and two is just faulty programming that they have in their root chakra. And that faulty programming creates that chatter, and people don't know how to control that inner voice. So when I saw this interview, I was like, you know what? It's like, I mean, listen, the guy's got, probably 6 million followers. We got 600.
Yeah, 6 million. Yeah.
Just in case somebody missed him and goes to us, I think it's just good to get the word out there. And we're going to be doing a lot of paraphrasing and trying to make it more, just put our spin on it with what we learned from Andrew Huberman and Ethan Cross, and put a little more than black and white onto it. So I think this could definitely benefit a lot of people. So I just see it. People, like, they get caught up in distractions, or they have too much chatter. Oh, I'm not good enough. This is going to take forever, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, it's just so detrimental for your outcome in life. And like, again, man, I just love to see people win. I want to see people win.
I'm with you on that, bro. I'm with you on that. And thank you for that, man, because when you shared it with me and I started listening to it today, I was like, damn, man. Like, was a couple of things. Well, first of all, people, as we're about to dive into this, I want to relay something that I can't remember when it came across the podcast, but basically, if you have chatter or intrusive thoughts, like, welcome to being a human being.
Yeah.
Like, yo, hey, welcome to this class.
Welcome to Earth.
Right,
to
right.
Earth.
Right. So I think the key thing, and as Brian said, we'll paraphrase some stuff, but we're going to put a spin on it, is about looking at, well, what's the importance of this in regards to our health and well-being? And then what are the ways that we address these things, right? Because if we all have them, it has this impact, but what are the ways that we attend to it? So I think, when he first started talking about the chatter, he said a couple things that really stuck out to me, man. And I'll share, but I'm curious for you, when he started talking about just in the first portion is more about chatter. So what was some of the things that really resonated with you and what he was saying, bro?
Basically, he just breaks it down where it was like the inner voice. It's the people are like, oh, what is the inner voice? He asked Dr. Ethancross, like, if somebody had to describe or give a definition of the inner voice, what is it? And the inner voice is the constant stream of thoughts that we carry everywhere, right? Yeah. It's our subconscious, which is our belief system stored in our minds. And you either get this from your parents, other adults that you grew up with that you had a strong bond with, even your environment. And once you form those habits or those people around you, it's almost like a hardware. You're wired with that type of personality and those type of behaviors for the rest of your life, unless you decide to do something about it. So we all have, listen, I mean, I've met one person that had something, kind of fucked up going on in their childhood, and they carry with that in their adulthood. But it's very rare to find somebody that understands that those subconscious beliefs that you have in you are holding you back. And that's good for a lot of reasons. Either they believe they can't change, or they're scared to change because you got to kind of look at yourself in the mirror. So there's a lot of reasons why, again, like why people just don't succeed because of faulty programming within their subconscious. So that's where I go with that.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought this one up, man, because and I'm not sure if it was the same thing, but when he was talking about the voices in the head, like what's the content, right? So it's like, hey, is it like, oh, it's my dad's voice? No, it's not dad's voice. It's the content, is what the dad was saying that you're reliving, right? So this comes back to what you were saying about, hey, what are some of the things that will prevent someone from winning? It's that talk track, right? Because that's what I thought was very interesting, especially when you talked about that inner dialogue, the inner voice. It's really like a talk track.
Yes, it's on a loop, right?
Yeah, and it's going to be the same unless you mentioned, until you decide to change it. So that's the piece. And what I think is so cool and interesting is that when it comes to those stream of thoughts, it can be just because we've heard it so many times. It's who we are, right? Sure. It's like, oh, well, that's just inner voice. And I also thought it was interesting how, I think it was Andrew that was saying, like, he's tried to change the voice, right? He's tried to change like what the voice says. Like, he'd make it sound like David Goggins. Okay, that didn't work. Then he's like, okay, Jocko Willink. Well, he's a fan, But I think so. What were your thoughts, like, especially when it comes to like knowing that the inner voice is a stream of thoughts? What was your takeaway when they started really talking about like making the changes in that inner voice, and how we shift those thoughts? Like, what was some stuff that came to mind for you?
What I thought was interesting about it is, like, as humans, we just have limited attention. We only have a certain amount of attention that we can use. So when you have this negative feedback on a loop, it takes away from other resources. It's almost like acts as like a sponge. So like an analogy that I heard was basically like, imagine like if you're new to like plumbing and you don't know how to fix a leak in your faucet, and you're sitting there and you're trying to concentrate on fixing the leak, but in the background you just have you hear your phone going off. You're like, you're gonna be like, that's the inner voice. That's the chatter. So when I see people trying to like, hey, I want to become an entrepreneur, or I want to do a side hustle or a side hustle or a side business, or I want to get better at work, or whatever it is, and they're trying to be creative, but they got that inner voice in the background. It's almost like a sponge, and it just sucks up all that creativity and productivity and all those creative resources from you. So I think that's super important to it's almost like we talked about this in the past, like you're only as good as an entrepreneur as in your business as you are as a person. So I see a lot of people, they're kind of like, you know, I hate to say, like just fucked up on the inside, and they're just like, they got some issues to deal with. I mean, we all got issues that we need to deal with, but they try to avoid those issues and try to create positive things on the outside, whether it be side businesses, whether it be work, whether it be relationships. And the reality, it's never going to work until you fix yourself. And I think step one is fixing that loop. Dude,
you hit it, man. Thank you for saying that, brother. Thank you for saying that, because it's necessary to fix the loop. That's something that resonated with what he was saying, because I think for me, when things began to shift and I began to start coming out ahead, I'm like, oh man, like my mind, my inner voice was like, what are you doing, man? It's not going to work.
Yeah.
Versus, hey, what are you doing? There's another way that you can work this. Let's figure this out, right? There's a slight distinction there.
Sure.
But it's playing into now starting to rework the structure of the words. And I liked one of the things that I liked that they were talking about was the journaling. And being able to like, okay, I'm going to write this out, because like, dude, I know you journal too. Like, I know you read, I know you journal. I know, like for me, journaling and writing things down and like writing out a thought, like that helps me to restructure. Like, oh my God, I was thinking that. Hold up, damn.
Yeah, it's almost like the pen kind of just takes control, and you're just like, you're just writing, like, oh shit, I didn't know about this, and you're like, the trick is to keep going, right? So he talks about, what does he talk about? The Pennebaker writing method, and this is actually really popular and very potent writing method. And they both were like, oh my God, they should just like teach courses of this in college, just like as far as like psychology goes, because they see like the breakthroughs, and a lot of science is behind this. So basically the Pennebaker writing method is you journal for 4 days in a row, 4 days straight, anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes. And you can just say week one, you do it Monday through Thursday. Just say you miss Monday to follow week, you can do it Tuesday through Friday. So it just has to be 4 days in a row for, I think it was like 4 or 5 consecutive weeks. And it was whatever, pretend like no one can see it. Just focus all your energy on there and just get your thoughts out. No editing, no judgment, nothing. And then at the end, you kind of do like a spin on it, and you balance it with using gratitude or positive memories to try to almost like flip the script. And what they do is, and the science behind this is really interesting. They were showing graphs and everything like that. They did numerous case studies on this. It severely reduced symptoms in anxiety and depression. It increases your immune system. It increases what they call CD4 T cells, which will like help in fight infections. And I forgot what else it fought, but it was more for like infections. And when you start doing that, less people got sick. And also enhances your prefrontal cortex. They saw like they did like MRI imaging on brains the month prior to doing this and a month after doing this writing method. The prefrontal cortex is kind of like lit up. And those who don't know what that is, that's like your memory spa, where you improve memory, planning, decision making, impulses, control, intuition, creativity. Which a lot of people, when they have those negative thoughts, they lack those. And you can just kind of tell with like, you know, like as a trainer, you're basically a psychologist.
Yeah, bro.
So like, you know, and I see people get down on themselves. I know they're not being that creative. I notice that prefrontal cortex is just shunted, no blood flow going in there. No. So I think this is a very powerful technique to kind of use.
I can tell you like it, because you get excited. You get like a tone in your voice. You're like, yo, man, so this the
Well, you know what I like about it? I like seeing science behind it.
Yeah, me too, dude. Me too.
I want to see the evidence behind it without it, without the government getting a hold of it. That kind of science.
Right.
That's another topic.
Right. Well, that's another podcast. But listen, I want to pause for a second and give kudos to Dr. Ethan. It's ethancross, right?
Yeah, ethancross.
Up to you, bro, because like how you broke this down and the study and the research, it was freaking. I think it was top notch. And I appreciate how, like, those stats that you just brought in, I didn't write it down, but like how they contribute to the anxiety and the depression and all these different things. But then also how that breaks down the immune system. It comes back to what we were saying before. It's more than black or white as far as like, hey, this is what this health is. There's so many little things that contribute to our health and well-being, specifically the thoughts.
Yeah.
Man, listen, man. And you mentioned about the training. It's like I noticed, for example, like with training, even for example with like when I coach guys, right, or mentor guys, a lot of it is first finding what their stories are or their thoughts are. So like a lot of guys that I work with when I take them to Step Into the Arena mentorship, one of the first things that we're doing is, what's your story? So it's like, so they'll start to talk like, hey, well, this happened. They'll say in the I, right? And then I'll have them change the I's to a third person and be like, all right, put your name in where you have the I's. Okay. Now read the story. And they're like, holy cow. Exactly. This is the stuff that's going through your head, bro. And B, every time when they see it, it's like, first of all, it's either they get angry as shit with me, right? They get angry as hell. They're like, yo, you know what? I don't like this exercise. Okay. And then they have to sit with it. And then they're like, yo, because I asked them, I said, we're not going to keep the story. What do you, now that you have your emotion with it, what do you want to shift? What do you want to shift, man? Because that's how we do one thing is how we do everything. If that's the inner conversation you have, it's like a projector. It's going to be project out in your life.
Yeah, we've had this conversation before. It's interesting. Like once you start understanding like how the whole body works in a holistic way, you can point out issues with somebody just having a conversation with them. So like, for example, like I remember this one woman came in, and this happens all the time. Like she came in and right away, like we're just having a conversation. She's putting herself down. She's not happy with herself, started talking about like, like how she got kicked out of the house when she was like 14 and like had, just a rough life.
Yeah, man.
And she's like, I got these ailments all over and it's like, blah, blah, blah. And so we started like talking about like, no one really wants, when you first sit down with somebody, no one wants to talk about their, mommy and daddy issues, like we're not going to have like a deep conversation there. They just want to learn how to tone up more energy, lose body fat, improve their body composition. That's basically what it comes down to. And I just remember talking to her and I was like, all right, we need to, we got to start working on your diet. We got to start getting you on some probiotics, some prebiotics, some HCl, that's going to help with the gut issues. That's going to help with probably like the back pain that you're having, a little bit of arthritis you're probably feeling already. And she's like, how do you know all these symptoms? Like, I didn't even tell you this stuff. And I'm like, I don't want to be like, I kind of like play it off like, oh, I just assumed you had it. But I don't want to be like, well, your root chakra is all jacked up. And that's it. That's basically, I know you're going to have, if your root chakra is jacked up and your creativity chakra is all jacked up, chakra number 1 and 2, your red and orange chakra, like I know you're going to have gut issues. I know you're going to have GI issues. I know you're going to have colon issues. I know you're probably constipated. I know you're going to have arthritis. I know you're going to have inflammation in the gut. You're probably paralysis in the gut. Your transit time is slow. Like I know all these things right off the top of my head. And it was just like to me, it's just like common sense, but because I've been doing it for so long, that's why it's common sense. But it's just by somebody talking, you can point out their ailments before they even mentioned it.
Yeah. And I'm going to add to that wisdom too. You can point out their ailments and bro, I just lost it. The ailments and damn, I just lost it because there was some, when you were saying, I was like, damn, man, when I'm talking to someone, like, I'll know like, okay, this is what's happening with you, like you said, but then I'll also know the reason that they're in the space that they're in. So it's like, like, so for example, if it's root and like, yo, I've been going from job to job and job. Oh, okay. You don't feel stable.
Yeah. Yeah, and like, a lot of times we're like especially in this area that we live in, there's a lot of thyroid problems, And I remember just going to somebody like, you learn about like the chakra, your throat chakra, you have a hard time communicating with people. Like you either hold stuff in. Like for me, like it's not mainstream, but the quickest way to jack up your thyroid is to either have your throat chakra too open, where you just like diarrhea the mouth, or you just hold everything in and you don't want to express yourself. That's the quickest way to jack up your thyroid.
Yep.
Anybody tell you any different, they just don't understand how the body works.
They don't get it.
They don't get it.
It's bro, dude, it's so crazy. I remember when we came back from like the world turning over on its head and shit, and being back in Lifetime, and then like having different clients. It's like, especially with the women clients that I was training, when they were like, oh, I got hyper or hypo, I'm like, oh, okay. I'd weave into the lesson like, hey, what's something you want to tell yourself today? They're like, I don't know. And I'm like, all right, well, let's think about it. I'm like, and then like I'd have them doing stuff in the mirror. I'm like, yo, say something nice to yourself. And I'm telling you, at some point, they'd be like,
oh yeah,
I said that to myself for so long. I said that.
Mm-hmm.
You're welcome.
But see, I've had people before. I mean, we're going off on a tangent, but it's all good. It's interesting. I remember learning this technique. I forgot where I learned it. I went to a Feldenkrais. He was like a famous chiropractor, physical therapist back in the day, Feldenkrais, and I went to a couple of his mobility classes. And he's like, you want to help somebody on an emotional level, open up their spine. All that tension, all those emotions are in their spine. So I was like, oh, let me try this. And I remember having this woman, she came in and she was like hunched like this. And that's a classic sign that you're trying to hide away from love, right? You have a hard time receiving love. Your heart chakra is just kind of jacked up. So I had her layer on a foam roller. I put the foam roller where the hollow ends were left and right, and I put it in the middle of her back. And I was like, let's just lean back a little bit. You hear just like pop, 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 and basically just nitrogen bubbles. And she came back up, and it's like, she didn't know why. She's just like flooding, just tears coming out, flooding. I'm like thinking to myself, like, holy shit, this works. It's like, I don't know why, I just started thinking about like my dog that we had to give away when I was younger, and like all this like crazy stuff. I'm like, I never thought about him in like 7-8 years. And I'm like, you're holding all this stuff in you. It's like, you got to kind of release it, So, she probably thinks I'm like performing witchcraft on her.
Listen, and I know like some people thought that for me, like, what kind of magic, bro? So real quick, okay, I know we're off the tangent, but I'm going there.
Yeah.
So speaking of this, right? I don't know if you remember, but when I was full-time as a trainer, there was a class that I held at lunchtime. It was I forget what I called it, but it's basically like a foam rolling like class. So I was taking up like the body from like starting at the calves all the way up to the head. And one of the things was like after we did like all the legs and then the hips and the glutes, I had them go to their back to 3 areas of their spine. And start off in this crunch position, and then all they would do would just open up and start to open up their elbows and look behind them. And the same thing, nitrogen bubbles.
Yeah.
And some of these cats would get up like, what just happened? You've been holding all these things, just like with that woman. With all of a sudden, I haven't thought about this because you're locked this stuff in. This comes back to the inner talk, though, right? People are going through things, B, and they're like, I don't understand these results because your inner talk is all jostled up and jacked. So it's listen, I get excited about it because it is not. I want to be free. This is right or wrong. It's an awareness piece, people.
Yeah, people are so unaware. People don't know what it's like to be in good health. Majority of people. Like they think they like, oh, I feel great. I feel great. Like you have no idea what it is to feel great. How the fuck do you feel great? Excuse me, like how do you like on fast food, 5 hours of sleep, a shitty relationship with your significant other? You don't know what it's like to feel great. You're overworked. Your sympathetic system is you're basically in a fight or flight the whole time. You have no idea what it's like to feel great.
Well, actually, B. So here's the thing, right? Respectfully, they do. Their version of great is what they're feeling.
Well, that's what they think, right?
That's what they think. It's not until somebody. So, for example, bro, and I think I said this in one of the podcasts. I've been doing this a lot lately, right? Because I'm just like I'm really focused on like, all right, where do I cover over stuff and get more clarity? So when people, I'm like, hey, how you doing? And they're like, oh man, I'm good. What does that mean though? What does that mean? Oh, well,
They're not expecting that follow-up question.
They're not expecting that, right? Because what do people do? What do people do? Right? It's just like what they said. We cover stuff, right? We just hold it in like, oh, it's this thought. I can't, oh my God, I got to get rid of it. I got to shun this thought. I can't think about that.
Yeah.
Your brain is meant to process and analyze. Prefrontal cortex, people, executive brain. So you got to remember, like, if your body's saying like, oh, this is great, but you're eating fast food, there's some inner talk in there. It's just like, yo, man, you know what? Go have some fast food, man. Make yourself feel better. Go have this. And you feel better for like 2 seconds. Then the bloat comes in, and then all the extra brown fat and extra hormones in the beef and all that stuff, whatever. But this is what I'm talking about. And I'm so happy that they went over this about like, and he had, I'm just looking at the show notes where he had inner voice benefits, thinking versus writing, tools, and journaling. So we did talk about that. And what was your take? Did you have anything on what they talked about as far as combating the chatter and the mental distancing? Do you remember what he talked about?
That was interesting. Yeah. So he basically like, he was talking about how to like learn how to step back and view yourself more like objectively, right? So use almost like second person pronouns. So, and because like as humans, we're very good at giving advice, but not taking the advice and using it towards yourself. So it's like one technique that we're saying is like, for example, like, you know, if something comes up in my work, like, you know, all right, like, I don't know, so something comes up, I'm like, all right, how do I figure this out? How do I figure this out? It's all on me. The spotlight's on me. But if I use like a second pronoun, I'm like, all right, Brian, how do we figure this out? We've done this before, Brian. What can we do? It's almost like I'm talking to somebody else, and then the spotlight's off me. I'm more objective, and I can become more creative. And I thought that was pretty fascinating. How you can get the results a lot quicker.
I think,
and it creates that, like, and it creates that psychological distance, you know, so like allowing you to approach problems as if it's somebody else's problems.
Yeah. And people love to solve other people's problems, me included. That's why when he said that, I was like, bro, this is the brilliance, man. And I'm so happy he's putting it out there. I'm so happy. Like, and again, there's more. Hey, listen, if you have yet to see or know who Andrew Huberman is, or this guy, Dr. Ethancross, bro, welcome to the party, man. Like, we're giving you a rundown. We're giving you some what do they call it? Cliff notes.
Cliff notes. So, that was a 3-hour podcast. If you want to watch theirs,
and all gems. Because, like, for example, when he talked about this, Brian, he said, like, the example you gave was ideal. I looked at this as like the story situation I was telling you before, to be able to take myself out of it, to be able to make change. And this is a lot of parts work too. Like, all right, seeing myself as a different part of me, or like seeing myself as separate from me. Like how you said, like, okay, I'm gonna, hey, Paul, how do we do this? Like, how do you want? Hey, we've done this before. How does this go? Because I think that in itself, when people do that, they start to think that inner talk is crazy. And if I recall correctly, I think he did mention this about how when people are like, oh my God, I hear these voices in my head. Oh, I gotta shut this out. Who is that voice? Right? We're gonna get to intrusive thoughts, but like we talk about those inner voices. I'm curious for you, man. Like when you have an inner voice, if you were to put a voice on your inner voice, who would it be aligned to?
You know, it's funny, man. Like probably Bill Burr.
I love that, yo. That dude is hilarious. Yo,
he is fucking hilarious. I love Bill Burr because he's very logical, but also funny. Yes. And I deal with, I don't know if it's like, you know, I just deal with bad things and with a sense of humor. So I have a pretty dark sense of humor. So like, no matter how bad it is, I laugh, you know, like, you know, I'm that guy, like, you know, and I hate to say this, but like, you know, we're at a funeral and everyone's quiet. I'm just like, don't laugh. Cause it's like, not that I'm like, you know, think it's funny that the person's not there, but it's like, you know, I don't know, but
well, you gotta,
I think I see the Bill Burr in it. Huh? Yeah. I'm definitely the Bill Burr guy in the back of my head. where he's like saying something funny but logical, and he's like, "All right, you got this. Not a big deal. You know, let's go."
Yeah. You got it, deal, Brian. Come on, Brian.
But I've also like a technique that I use that wasn't mentioned. This is I don't really have in. I mean, like I get down on myself if something happens. Maybe like I get like again, 10-second pity party. Then I'm like, I get out of it and I focus on things that are going to make it better. And while I'm putting all my energy and all my focus on trying to create like safety nets so this doesn't happen again, or learning something new to prevent it, I'm not thinking about the negative behind it. Because for me, it's like, what? I don't understand. Like to me, it's like it's hard to understand why people just dwell on the negativity. Like I get it, but like you have two choices. You can either be positive or negative. For me, I want to learn why I made the mistake and how do I set things up so I don't make that mistake. And hopefully I can teach somebody later on, hey, listen, hey, I get it, man. This happened to me. What I did was A, B, and C. You know, I hope this helps you. You know, instead of me just being like, oh, poor me, I give up. I'm going to go to bed. I'm going to smoke weed and eat Big Macs, you know, and watch Netflix, you know. I don't get that mentality. I have a growth mentality. I don't like the other type. I don't like just giving up and failing.
No.
I don't know if that answers your question.
It did not. But no, it is my question because it was like your answer was Bill Burr. But
yeah.
Also, it was recognizing like you don't have it. There's more of a victor mindset than victim. What I hear you say, right? So you're able to say, okay, I can have my party, and I think this is important for people to understand. I think people want to have more of a tendency to just shut something out. The thing is, though, for somebody to shut something out, that takes a lot of courage and a hell of a lot of discipline, because you got to make sure that, or you get to make sure that there's something else that's coming in its place, or else that intrusive thought or that whatever that talk track is going to come right back in. So it's important. I appreciate what you're saying there. It really being able to, man, adjust that.
It's almost like it's like that law of hermeticism, right? Of as above, so below, right? So you get the opposite. So it's like when something bad happens, like it's a law. Like focus on something else. Focus on the polar opposite. Right? Help you kind of balance it out.
Yeah, man. But that's what I was going to. I got lost in the thought track for a second. But the way, like what you described, I just wanted to acknowledge that takes courage to do that, man. Like it, for people like, and I judge, right? Like for you to get to that point where you are right now, it took a lot of courage over the years to be able to reprogram the mindset, because it's almost, Brian, I think it's at this point, it's easier to give into the negative, right? It keeps us safe, right? It's a regulator. Like, oh man, you don't have to do that. Go have some shoestring fries and some fake ass nuggets. Get some sweet and sour ranch, rub it on your freaking titties. Whatever it is, man. Like, I just think it's easier to do that because it's like it's an impulse. But to be able to say, oh wait, hold on, oh yeah, like I want to have this because I'm pissed off. I want to do this. Like, okay, be pissed off, motherfucker.
Yeah.
You good now? You good? All right, now let's get this shit.
For me, it was like, for me, I just don't like being that way because I don't like to be in a vulnerable situation, or I don't like to play the victim, because just like for me, just, my childhood, like it was like a little crazy, like my dad was a bad alcoholic growing up. So it was like physical abuse. It was emotional abuse. My mom worked a lot. Always saw her stressed out. So I felt like, I always felt like I was too small, or I was like, almost like I can easily be taken advantage of. I was a small kid too, growing up. Like, and I remember high school, my freshman year, I was like 5'1", 5'1", I was 85 pounds. I get picked on a lot. I was a scrapper though. I wouldn't put up with anybody's shit. Like, but I was small. I was small. Like I didn't really grow, and I remember to graduate in high school, I was like 6'1", 135. I was really skinny, and I wasn't, And I got to a point where it's like, all right, fuck this. I'm going to hit the gym. I started working out. Now, I mean, I'm 6'1", I'm like a little over 200. And I feel, not that I do it now because of like ego, but like for the first, like probably like 10, 15 years, I did it because of that. But I don't like to feel vulnerable. So I don't like to sit there and be like, oh, you know, the universe is coming after me, or like, blame other people. I want to take responsibility for myself. That way I can't get hurt, you know? So it's like, I will refuse. If somebody comes up and punches me in the face, my mindset's like, you know what, man, I got to get eyes in the back of my head. I got to be more aware of my surroundings. Yeah. I don't blame that person for doing it. Yeah, you're an asshole for the first, like, you're definitely an asshole for doing it. You're going to catch an ass whooping 9 out of 10 times, you know. but part of me is like, all right, how do I flip it so I'm not the victim out of this situation? Right. Like, so how do I protect myself going forward? You know what? Maybe I can get my ass back to some jiu-jitsu classes, or I don't know, whatever it is. Don't put myself in those situations.
Now, see, now your inner talk on that, bro. That's a game changer, bro. Because what I'm hearing and what you're saying is you've developed a talk track. You've developed your inner conversation to the point where you're like, whatever happens, like it sounds like you're set to learn from it. And like, okay, oh yeah, that happened. Okay, what do I do to enhance that? Oh shit, he just cold cocked me back in my head. Okay, I gotta get better with my sensory perception. And like, you know, learn some Wing Chun Kung Fu, man. Be like, pow, pow. You know, but like, I'm joking around, and I'm not, because, and this is what we're talking, you know, aside from what they're saying, I think for here, what we're talking about in this platform is that people, it's very important for you to continue to develop your inner talk tracks and conversations, because they become your default, right? This is what I was taking away with this, is that when it comes to like this inner voice in these conversations, it's not like it's anything different than you've ever heard before. You can, a person has, my take on it is a person has configured these sentiments and these belief systems into a certain structure that supports their foolishness. So now you can create something else that'll support your greatness if you want to.
Yeah.
If you want to, bro.
Yeah, I believe that there's no accidents. No. Everything is a result of what you put out in the universe. Yeah. So if something happens to you that's bad, you know, I know there's a lot of backlash, like, you know, but I think it's in some way you had control over that. I think some way you had control over that. And again, you're not playing the victim role. You're taking responsibility for yourself.
Bro. So let's talk about this, bro, because I think this leads into the intrusive thoughts, right?
Yeah.
Because I know one of the most difficult things I've found as I continue to like hone and forge myself, right, is really looking at a situation and following the route to where was a place in this whole scenario I could have made a different decision. Where would this have taken me? Now, look, one of the things I appreciate is they talked about intrusive thoughts, and I'm not going to give away that. I keep mentioning this guy's name up. What is it, Dr. Krauss?
Cross, yeah.
Yeah, Dr. Cross. I don't want to, I'm not gonna give up what Dr. Cross's intrusive thoughts are, but like I pretty much have had thoughts like that, what he said in the podcast too. So when I was going through some stuff, especially we talked about like that de-establishment of paternity, some of my intrusive thoughts were extremely dark, bro. Like, if I told someone this, like people ask how you doing, and I was like, I can't stay over the phone. I'm like, the government's watching me. They're gonna come find me if I told you what was in my head, bro. It's a very dark place. So I was really appreciative when these two men started talking about the intrusive thoughts, because I think people have a lot of those and they could judge themselves on what they're thinking, even though it's solely a thought, right? So when I'm curious for you, like when they started talking about the intrusive thoughts, B, what was something that really stuck out to you where you're like, yo, okay, ooh, that's some interesting shit.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I get in those moments sometimes too, where like I'm planning somebody's murder out. I'm like, all right, you know, like I don't know. It's like part of me is like still a little vengeful, but obviously I never follow through on it. You know, in my head, I definitely did. Yeah. But I also I really believe in karma. I believe in my spiritual approach. If somebody does something dirty to me, it's because I did something dirty to them in a past life or somewhere along the way. And I need to break this. I need to break it right now, so we don't keep repeating this karmatic cycle going forward. That's where I go after a couple minutes of calming down. So I try to leave it up to faith and what I believe in, and like, listen, I can act down on it, and then maybe in the next lifetime that person's gonna do it to me, and I'm gonna do it back, and like, and I feel like maybe this is back and forth now 30 times already. Yeah. And I'm just like, I'm just fed up with it. I don't want to go back and forth with it, you know.
And you shift it.
Yeah, I try to shift it, and I try to leave. You know, and it's funny because like your ego takes over, and you're like, fuck that person, I hate it back, an eye for an eye, go get him. But after just kind of sitting there and like thinking about it, I'm like, man, I got a family now. I have too much to lose. Like, you know, what am I doing? What am I thinking about? You know, I don't want to sit in a cell. You know? Yeah, like, not that I would ever take it that far, but like, you know.
Dude, like, but hold up, like, I want to bring some realism to this, bro, because some people do act on that stuff, bro.
Yeah.
And listen, it's happening. You know, we just don't see it as much in the news, but there's stuff that's happening every day in our area that is some messed up stuff that's just not getting covered.
Yeah.
Because it's dark. Like some people, and I'm appreciative of what they talked about as far as like the emotional regulation and like, you know, being able to like manage and see things or like be able to play with those thoughts. And I know for me, like when I've had some intrusive thoughts of like towards the mothers of my kids, man, like one of my tools is okay, so like you just said, like if I played that out, like, yeah. You know what I mean? Like, bro, there was some nights I would sit, man, with a Heineken, and I'm like, yo, okay, if I did that, that would be messy.
You're ordering ski masks on Amazon.
You know, like, hey, man, if I call up this hitman, like, wait, I just do that. You don't scratch that. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
hey, listen, we've all had those thoughts. There's not one person that has never had that thought.
Dude, exactly. And that's why I'm so happy we could talk about it. And these guys talked about it because I think people, as I said, I think people can go into this space, Brian, where they're like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm thinking that. I'm going to hell. But it's like, hey, your body's going to process it because in a way, that's you processing that anger. That's you processing the emotion. It's like this situation happened recently, right? Where there was something going on with my son and in school, and then like I was talking to him and his mom, and I was freaking heated. I was like, oh man, this is like a freaking like rage. And I'm talking, and they're like, yeah, they're feeling. And then like after I got off the phone, I sat with it, bro.
Yeah.
I sat with the anger. I sat with the rage. I sat with what was all coming up. Then, like by the time I was able to go into, by the time I had the meeting with the administrators, I was good, man. I was clear. You see what I'm saying? Because I acknowledged that emotion. Now, come to find out, right? And here's the crazy thing is that my former wife and my son wanted me to be in that anger. Why am I saying this? Because your intrusive thoughts, if a person fails to acknowledge them, they'll get supported or fueled by something in your environment. Yeah. If you continue to like, no, I'm not thinking about this. Guess what? You're thinking about it, and now you're trying to suppress it. And it's like, oh, you're trying to suppress me? Then pew, pew, pew. This person's going to support it. They want to see you angry. Or it's like, if something happens to you, you probably have people in your life, you'd be like, what did you do? You took that? I'd be pissed. I'd want to bloop, bloop, bloop.
Yeah.
Maybe. It's wild.
Well, a lot of hurt people out there that don't like to see people happy.
They don't.
You know?
They don't.
And if somebody's instigating something, that's just a hurt person.
It's hurt.
That's
Man.
trying to have you act out for them.
And that's not good. And this is like assessing the risk too. Like I didn't get to really flesh out what they said about that. I couldn't hear the whole thing. I have yet to finish the whole podcast. But when they were talking about like in this instance, especially with the intrusive thoughts, I think it comes back to what we were talking about with the inner voice, right? Being able to separate, like to take a step from that thought, like, like what would be the risk in me doing that?
Yeah, that's where the prefrontal cortex comes in, impulse control.
Right, bro.
And that's what they were saying. Remember we talked about this in a couple past episodes where it's like men have less prefrontal cortex that is lit up compared to women. That's why more men, I think it's like 95% of more men are in prison than women, because men are more impulsive. That was one of the big variables. Other variables too, but that was one of the bigger ones. First impulsive.
Dude, it's interesting because something similar I found when I was doing statistics on male deaths. And when I looked at, it was 19, I think it was 19 to 25 or 26, like accidents and suicide were high. I think it was like 1 and 2 for that age range. And then when it gave into the explanation, it was talking about like, well, for males, they're more impulsive. So they're more willing to try some crazy ass shit. Yeah. Or like when they have a thought and they're like, I don't deserve to be here, then they're more impulsive or more apt to go grab something and take their own life. Yeah. So it's very important to be able to acknowledge and recognize. I dig that these types of conversations are happening more. My concern is that people are failing to really take in these tools and begin to train themselves to take themselves out of a situation and have more control. That's my concern, bro. I mean,
yeah, you got to find something that's bigger than you.
Yeah,
that you love more than yourself.
And goals, bro.
Yeah,
we talk about this, and they started. I didn't get this, but when I was looking at the show notes, I wanted to get to that because I know how my boy B is about goals. Ooh, Brian, I know because you said like, hey, your purpose isn't big enough.
Yeah,
people going through some stuff. You said repeatedly on this podcast, your goals got to be bigger.
Goals got to be bigger than yourself. Your legacy that you leave behind has got to be bigger than yourself.
Yeah.
It's
gotta be.
And when it comes to life coaching, that's a lot of these coaches out there. The first thing they'll ask you, if it's a good coach, like, what do you want to leave behind? What's your legacy? If you don't know that, we're not starting off on a program, because I know you're gonna. At the moment something bad's gonna happen, you're gonna skip the gym. You're gonna go out and you're gonna eat Arby's or whatever the hell it is. And if you have a goal that's bigger than you, you're gonna want to treat that body like a golden vessel. You're not going to want to do anything wrong with it. So I'm not saying like, people go out there, have a Heineken every once in a while, vodka club, a cheeseburger, all good in moderation.
In moderation, because usually the people that are doing that are like, all right, man, you know what, that was good. Let me get back on my shit. Or it's like they'll counterbalance it, like, instead of fries, let me get a salad. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like there's a whole bunch of ways. It's just very
Yeah, I like, and it's things I do, like, like one of my goals, like, when I'm 50 for my 50th birthday, I want to climb the Mount Everest base camp. It's a 10-day trek out there. Not Mount Everest. I don't want to go to the top. I heard it's a shit show. Plus, I don't, 50-50 chance I don't come back. But the base camp, I think it's like 19,000 feet if I'm not mistaken. But the 10-day trek. So I'm like, all right, like I got 5 years to do that. Or 4.5 years to do that. 4 years actually in March. Jesus Christ, I'm getting old. But 4 years to do that. 4 years, I'm getting wiser.
So right.
I want to train my body. I want to start training my body now. I'm making sure I get 6 days of workouts in, cardio days. I'm doing my stretching, all this stuff. I want to eat clean because I know whatever I put in my body, that's my ligaments, that's my tendons, that's my protoplasm. So I'm like, I want to train myself now and have to look forward to that. One of my goals, I want to see every country in the world. I want to travel all over. I might have to start traveling when keep traveling when I'm 90, So like, I want to keep in good health for that. And plus kids, grandkids, and all them people.
Yeah. Yeah. Listen, I'm so happy you mentioned that, man, because this comes back to like having the big goals and knowing what you want and where you're going. So I think, I don't know if I said this on podcast before, but like I've been working out. I've been bringing a friend along with me for some of the workouts, right? And he's like, hey man, so what are we gonna do for this workout? I'm like, well, I know what I'm gonna do. I'm like, yo, if you want to follow along, I don't know. But so the other day, like after yoga class, I was like, yo, because my blood pressure was getting a little high, so I wasn't doing a lot of heavy lifts. I was doing more more complex movements, like combination of things, right? So I got back into the deadlifts on Saturday, and I did sumo deadlifts, right? Sumo deadlifts to really, because I've noticed, like, especially I was having some knee pains, like my glutes aren't turning on, so I wanted to like focus on really opening myself up, because like how you're talking about, like going and traveling, like I know for me, I'm getting to a leg in my 50s now where I want to be traveling, I want to be mobile, I want to be active, I want to be able to like, hey, okay, we're doing this, let's go walk it. I want to be able to be in that space. Plus, be able to do some stuff like, and by that I mean just like be able to manage my body. So this guy's like, oh man, what are you doing? He's like, yo man, damn, I've never even seen this, man. What are you doing this for? And I'm like, I had to break it down for him. He was like, oh, I never really thought about that. I was like, I know you didn't. I'm like but like I was like, listen, and I was breaking it down to him. I was like, yo, where do you want to go with your body, bro? What do you like? What's on the horizon for where you're going in your life? What do you see as how your body is structured to be able to accomplish that? Okay, now if you see that in the future, what do you start doing today? It's that simple.
Yeah.
Is it going to be like, hey, I'm doing everything? No. But like, guess what? You're taking the steps. You're coming to the gym. Like you're moving your body. Like, dude, like even some, you know what I mean, B?
Yeah, like it brings up a point where it's like people, they do things, but they have no intention. And you ask them why they're doing things, they're like, I don't know. Like when I was managing trainers at the gym, and I would look over their programs, and I'd be like, oh, this person will come in with like back pain. I'd be like, all right, write me up a program. Let me see what you're going to do with them. Yeah. Well, why are you doing that exercise? Why are you doing a chest exercise with them? Their shoulders are like this. You think they need a chest exercise? Like, why'd you pick that one? I don't know. I just thought that you just had to do a chest exercise every workout. No. His chest muscles are tight. Open them up. Like it's like if you're going to write something down, you should be able to know exactly why you're doing each one. So people just don't have the intention of why they're doing something. They just do it because that's what they read in Muscle Fitness and Flex magazines.
And listen, dude, I was gonna say this is a tangent, but this is right up the alley for what we're talking about with like the intrusive thoughts in their work. Because when people fail to have the intention, like you do some stupid haphazard stuff, right? You're doing stuff that's unnecessary. So like, for example, like this person is going to put, if they were to put him on a chest press, you're already around his shoulders. You're aggravating the problem.
You're exacerbating the problem.
Yeah. Stretch the chest, bro. If you want to do a chest exercise, do a stretch.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, bro, what? Come on, man.
That's just the programming in the industry. You got to do a chest, you got to do a pull, you got to do a squat. Or like I see people like, oh, this person like has a problem squatting, so I'm going to put them on the leg press machine. I'm like, your body doesn't understand muscles and understands movements. When are you in any day of your life on a 45-degree angle pushing something away? But when are you? But they think like a squat, like they got to load up weight. I'm like, just put a ball behind their back and have them tell them to go up and down. Just like, we're not splitting atoms here. But that's what they're like. They just programmed to kind of think like that. Brother. I'm working on a leg press machine. It's going to make them a better squatter. Like, no, man. Like, no,
squatting is going to make you a better squatter, bro.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's how you get better at it. You squat. Like, that's that machine. But listen, this is the thing, right? And then coming back to the situation with this guy that's come to work out. And I'm so happy he's working out because he's starting to understand things. Like, for example, with the squats, perfect example. I'm like, look, dude, part of my warm-up and one of my exercises is squat with the medicine ball. Like, I'm going to squat my ass down to the medicine ball. I'm going to practice, open up my knees. Where's my body? What's going on? Okay, I'm going to, let me do this stretch. All right, let me do this activation. Oh, here we go. Now I got the range, bro. He's like, yo, I don't know if I can get down to that level. I'm like, well, that's why you got 4 sets, mother hoo-ha. Get to it. You know what I mean? And guess what, B? By the second end of the second set, his ass is down on the ball.
Yeah.
He's like, yo, I didn't even know I could squat that. Of course you didn't. It's the same thing, like, guys.
You sit on a toilet every day, man. Like,
what's that?
You sit on a toilet every day. Like,
this is what I'm talking about, right? This is natural body function. And people will say, hey, I work out. But then when you see their workout, like, hey, do a lunge. Nah, I don't know if I can do that. Then bro, what happens if you fall down, son? How are you going to get back up?
Looking like a newborn baby giraffe out there.
Bro, legs like, come on, man. Bro, I don't know. Yeah, I just did go off on tangent, but like,
that's right.
Yeah, it's all good.
We're coming on the hour. We deserve it.
Coming up on the hour. But as we start to wrap it up, listen. I know we got off into the training aspect, but the reason that we got off into that is because your thoughts can take you away from your health and well-being. Your talk track, your inner voice can tell you like, hey, this is great, or this is a workout, when it really ain't shit. Okay, so you get to, if something's not working in your favor or working in alignment with what you want, it's time to change your inner voice. There's time to address and see what's going on with the inner voice. And it's also an opportunity for you to really, if there's some intrusive thoughts, like, and that could be not only against somebody else, it can be against yourself. Yeah. Like if you're looking in the mirror, you're like, oh my God, I hate my body. I wish I was this. That's an intrusive freaking thought. You are doing harm to your spirit and to your body by what you're saying. So switch that shit up and go watch the damn podcast. Got me all up in my emotions right now. Let me go put some more grapes in my mouth, man. You know what? Brian, take us out, huh? You know
yeah, I mean, my final thought would be, if you're having these intrusive thoughts, which most of us have, know that it's the majority of the time it's not your fault. That's your subconscious, that's your programming from your childhood. But it is your fault if you decide not to do anything about it. So I'll leave you with that. That's all I got to say.
Mama say, Mama sa, Mama sa. Bless up, everybody. Listen, let us know. You don't have to let us know your intrusive thoughts. That's only for you, and that's for you and only you, and maybe your partner or whoever you want to talk to about it. But let us know if you have some ways, and we're going to post the link to this podcast, to Andrew Huberman podcast. Andrew, thank you for this, and Dr. Cross, thank you for this. But if you have some ways that we never got to address your inner talk or your intrusive thoughts, I think it would be super tip top if you were to share that in the comments so that other people that are watching this video can see that as well and then share themselves. So there may be something that we can all learn from each other in this community as we start to really build out this wisdom and knowledge. So, absolutely. You know what I mean, B? Shit, that's why we're here, bro. And we go. I know this guy's not the most popular guy right now, but it's like, I thought I told you that we won't stop. Thought I told you that we won't stop. So listen, I'm not gonna say any names, but if you know, you know.
I wonder if was playing that song when all that went down.
What's that?
I said, I wonder if that song was playing when it all went down.
It might have been. It might have been. Meanwhile, it was like, yeah, I told you that we won't stop. I thought, like, yo, man. He's up on the cuffs. Give me some baby oil on that piece. But anyway,
you know the Costco run. This was our last episode. Thanks for showing up.
Yo, it's a wrap. We're getting cut off. If you come back, the station's black. You know what happens next time. All right, everybody. Thank you.
We appreciate you guys.
Bless up, everybody.